I want to start with a couple of statistics you've probably already heard. A recent study found that 70% of students who grew up participating in church as middle school or high school students, when they entered adulthood, students today are leaving the church behind. They're dropping out and they're never returning. Another study that I've quoted in past sessions is this. A study was done of church membership. And until the year 2000, 70% of Americans were members of churches. Church was a fixture in the lives of Americans for years. But since the year 2000, church membership has declined sharply. And today, only 45% of Americans are members of churches, which tells me that the majority of us have our doubts. We've been disappointed by our church experiences, which has left many of us disillusioned by faith. Friends, here's what I think. We need a new kind of Christianity. Hey gang, today I'm wrapping up our series, which we've called I'm Just Not Sure. We've been having an honest conversation about Christianity, a conversation for those of us who are doubters, those who have been disappointed and find ourselves disillusioned by Christianity from time to time. We've been talking about the stumbling blocks, that have gotten in the way of many of us wholeheartedly embracing Christianity. And today what I want to wonder with you about is this. Is it time for a new kind of Christianity? Now, I've spent a lot of time in the church. Growing up, my dad was a pastor, and I was in the pew every single Sunday. I've heard more sermons than anyone should have to listen to in their life. I know most of the hymns we sing by heart. I rarely have to pick up a hymnal for anything, and now I've served as a pastor for 20 years myself. Friends, I've sat through a lot of church services. But here's what else has happened over these years. I've had a few Wizard of Oz moments. Let me explain. Do you remember in The Wizard of Oz when Toto pulled back the curtain and it exposed that little wizard for who he really was? Well, over all my time in the church, it's exposed something that's important to understand about the church. And it's what makes the church often complicated and resistible to people looking from the outside. And here's what it is. Church is something different to everyone. For everyone who walks through the door of a church, they have their own understanding of what church or faith should be. For some, church is the liturgy, the tradition of the church. For others, church is the music, the band, the organ, the music tradition. For others, the church should be a voice for peace or justice, working hand in hand with political leaders. For others, it is a place to live out our call to serve. For others, it's a place to preserve a cultural heritage. And others, they just see it as a social club. Now, because of all these competing ideas of what church should be, often there can be tensions. And those tensions can cause Christians to act in ways that, aren't so Christian, which ultimately makes the church all too resistible. When people see Christians behaving badly, no one wants to be a part of that. And it's no wonder people have their doubts, they get disappointed, and they're disillusioned when they see Christians arguing, fighting, disagreeing with one another. So maybe, just maybe, it's time for a new type of Christianity. A Christianity that isn't so much about me and my personal preferences, my wants and my desires, what makes me feel good. Instead, what if we were to return to first century Christianity? A Christianity that sends out thoughtful, curious followers of Jesus. And we're all on a quest to simply follow the life and the example of Jesus. A Christianity that's committed to teaching others about this way of life by living an example of Jesus' radical love that we'd be defined by our ongoing quest and mission and passion rather than by a need to adhere to a series of beliefs and traditions and expectations. What if at our core, we were a community of people with a diversity of beliefs and views and backgrounds and dreams, but we're bound by an unquenchable thirst for the one thing that holds us all together, following the way of Jesus, the love of Jesus, the grace of Jesus, living out the mercy of Jesus, giving people the hope and the joy of Jesus, so much so that when the world looks at us, they'd say, I don't know if I believe what they believe, but I sure want some of what they've got. Friends, thanks for joining me for the 5 sessions of this series, which we've called I'm Just Not Sure. Let me leave you as we close with a couple more questions. When you think about the people in your life, what is church to them? And secondly, how might returning to the ways of the first century church make Christianity more, well, irresistible?